First tonight, more aid trucks have been seen crossing into Gaza, where Israel has eased its blockade and military operations under intense international pressure. The UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs has welcomed Israel's move, but he insisted more is needed at a faster pace. Tom Fletcher said the delivery of more than 100 trucks was a drop in the ocean and called for the opening of all the border crossings to prevent mass starvation. The Israeli military is observing a second day of its tactical pauses, but correspondents say people in the Strip are angry and frustrated as very few have yet managed to get supplies. Israel denies it's deliberately starving civilians to death. Gaza is certainly high on the agenda of the list of subjects the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is discussing with Donald Trump during the president's few days in Scotland, staying in his golf course on the blustery west coast. They've described conditions inside Gaza as revolting and catastrophic.
Mr. President, Prime Minister Netanyahu said there's no starvation in Gaza. Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't know. I mean, based on television, I would say not particularly, because those children look very hungry. But we're giving a lot of money and a lot of food, and other nations are now stepping up.
Mr. President, do you think Israel has done all it can do to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza?
Well, I think nobody's done anything great over there. The whole place is a mess. It'll get straightened out, but it's a mess. They have to get food and safety right now. And ultimately, look, Hamas did a horrible thing, and they paid a big price, but Hamas did a horrible thing. But I always said, when you get down to the last 20 or 10, they're down to 20. We got a lot of hostages out, and you helped us, by the way. Yeah, but we got a lot of hostages out over the last 6 months that I've been in. But I always said, when you get down to the final 20, they won't release them, because that's like their shield. Very unfair, and so something's going to have to be done. And they were really unwilling to talk. But I've said that. You'll get down to the final 10 or 20. It turns out to be 20. I thought that would be the number. I said, they're not going to be dealing with us. And, many of the hostages are now dead, you know that. And now possibly the fight will have to be a little bit different, but they have totally changed now. They don't want to give hostages. Very unfair. You have 20 living people, in this case living. You have many dead people, too, that they want to get
a long time as well.
Yeah, they have 20 living people. And I told Israel, I told Bibi that you're going to have to now maybe do it a different way.
Do you think a ceasefire is even possible?
Yeah, a ceasefire is possible, but you have to get it. You have to end it. You're talking about with Israel's. You're talking about there, because we have many ceasefires going on. The whole world is. If I weren't around, you'd have right now 6 major wars going.
To complete this goal of eliminating and also the release of our hostages, we are advancing in the fighting and conducting negotiations whichever path we choose. On any path, we will have to continue to allow the entry of minimal humanitarian supplies. We have done this until now, but the United Nations is making excuses and lies about the state of Israel. It says we are not allowed to enter with humanitarian supplies. We are allowing them. There are secured roads. There have been all along, but today it is official.
Benjamin Netanyahu, and before him Donald Trump, flanked by Sir Keir Starmer. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from Gaza by Dr Muhammad Fadlala, who is the managing medical doctor for Doctors Without Borders in Gaza. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So another military pause now in effect in Gaza. What are you seeing and hearing at the moment about aid coming into Gaza? Is aid getting through?
I'm happy to be with you all. So from what I've seen on the ground, from working in the hospital, we have seen the airdropped aid, which has caused a lot of problems with people getting injured, causing a bit of a ruckus. I have not seen effects of the trucks coming in, although it could take some time for that effect to manifest. So I think it's still taking some time for the aid to come in, and it will take some time for the aid to be distributed to those who need, and in a way that everybody gets what they need. I think I agree with the UN's assessment that a lot more trucks are needed, and at a much faster pace. And really, that's the only safe way to bring aid in. The air-dropped aid poses too many risks, too many potential for chaos, too much potential for injuries.
Right. So in your assessment, just broadly speaking, these tactical pauses are working or not? Because we understand that so far a trickle is going in when what is actually needed is a flood.
Yeah, absolutely. So it has not quite yet been effective. We have not seen a dramatic change over these last 2 days in the condition of anybody. We have not seen in the hospital much of a change in the patient load coming in our trauma surgery hospital. People are still getting injured, trying to get aid. And aid is not enough of it is coming in yet.
Nevertheless, Israel taking measures that it didn't take before in order to enlarge the provision of humanitarian supplies. I mean, this proves, doesn't it, that what Israel did up till now simply wasn't sufficient. But is it too little, too late in your view?
So let me say very clearly that what Israel did and even what the U.S. contributed to is not just insufficient; it was dangerous and disruptive and deadly. It's too late, certainly, and it's too little, but it's not foregone. I think if the border gets wide open and enough trucks get let in, and the apparatus that's designed for aid distribution, generally by the United Nations, that works all over the world, is allowed to go, then it, it's not futile. I think there's still a lot of resilience here and a lot of hope here for people to get their situation to improve and for conditions to get better. People are hopeful in the last few days, the way things are on a geopolitical scale. So it's too little. It's quite late, but it's absolutely not foregone. I think we need to use this momentum, this positive momentum, to push as much in as we can.
And we were just seeing on our screens a moment ago those airdrops that you talked about at the outset. Just talk to us a little bit more about those drops, because they are part of the Israeli announcement on Sunday. Do you think they are an effective approach at this point?
I think that they're not effective, and I think that they pose danger, both in the projectiles landing on people, on tents, on houses, and in the ruckus and disruption that they can cause with people just trying to access it, trying to get it. It's almost like a free-for-all, and folks here are desperate, so naturally it's going to cause a major ruckus, and people can get hurt from this kind of distribution scheme. With that said, what's been going on here before with the GHF has been killing fields and slaughter. So this is a change that might end in less lives lost, but really what needs to happen is trucks on the ground need to be let through the borders in enough quantities and at enough pace so that the aid can be distributed from the top of the Gaza Strip to the bottom, and everybody can get a share of what they need to survive.
And how much of all this is a reaction, some would say belatedly, to the sort of immense pressure on Israel from the international community, with countries threatening sanctions on Israel and the political bigwigs in Israel realizing that what they're doing in Gaza is simply not sustainable and that they have to make bigger concessions?
Yeah. To get the actual answer to that question, you would have to talk to the Israeli government to tell you. But from my estimation, as an outsider, but being in here, I think the more we speak out about it, the more we show what's going on in here, the more pressure will be put on folks to get things right and to do better by the people in Gaza who are really suffering and reaching the end of the rope. So I think it has been very powerful messaging, very powerful images, and really a lot of truth being told that everybody can plainly see.
And we just heard today that two leading Israeli human rights groups have now said for the first time that Israel's actions in Gaza amount to genocide, even though Israel denies this. But these are leading human rights groups within Israel. What's your reaction to that?
You know, I think the more people see and the more people have access to what's really going on here on the ground, the more clear it is that what's going on is genocide, and it needs to stop and it needs to end, and we need to close this dark chapter and start to heal and rebuild and let them rebuild their bodies and their spirits. So I think the more truth that gets spoken out there, the better, and the more clear it will be for anyone concerned and anyone who cares to know and see what's going on and understand what's going on and the weight of it and the magnitude of it. And that's the way things will end up hopefully changing for the better for the Gazans.
And talking about things ending, it's not looking very good with the ceasefire talks, is it? With both Israel and the US pulling their negotiating teams out of Doha, and the other negotiators, Egypt and Qatar, expressing disappointment with Hamas, and Israel saying it's now looking at alternative ways to bring out the hostages.
You know, you could probably speak more to that than I can. I'm really focused here on the ground in our surgical hospital. It's very sad that they haven't come to an agreement. We're very hopeful. The Gazans here are very hopeful. They're a hopeful people in their makeup, and they're always wishing for the best. And we need the parties to get together and talk and end this. So you're not gonna find dejection here. People remain hopeful, and people remain appealing to people's greater natures and greater good. And you know, we need to get this done.
And just on a slightly more personal level, I mean, what's it like for you being surrounded in Gaza by all this suffering and all this death? I mean, you are a doctor and you must come across a lot of pretty horrendous stuff.
You know, it's the nature of the job. I will say though that the horrendous and tragic stories that I encounter are met equally with beautiful stories of my Palestinian colleagues digging deep within themselves to do the best they can for their fellow Palestinians. Everybody here is in the same boat. Everybody is hungry. Everybody doesn't have enough to feed their family. Everybody is scared about the bombs. Everybody is living in tents. Everybody is being displaced. Our doctors, our surgeons, our nurses, our staff, everybody. But morning after morning, they come and they show up to work and they're rounding on patients and they're doing surgery on patients and they're taking care of patients and they're coming for their night shifts and they're staying all night. So this is what I have come out of this experience being here with, much more than the tragedy and the sadness and not to minimize those stories, but what's touched me, if you're asking on a personal note, is the incredible stories from my colleagues.
Dr. Muhammad Fadlala, I want to thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we appreciate your taking the time to talk to us. He is the managing medical doctor for Doctors Without Borders in Gaza, and he was talking to me on the line from Gaza.